Welcome everyone once again to our regular weekly live stream on YouTooSpain. I'm Skatz and today I'll be talking to my lovely wife Liz and answering questions about being a UK citizen spouse of an EU citizen and how we both got our residency in Spain. It's our own personal story and I hope it relates to you. We'll tell you the whole process from arriving in Spain up to the present day, how long it took, what it cost and what pitfalls to avoid. Now, usually we'd be answering your questions live on the live chat, but we've had to pre-record this show because we're taking a little holiday, which we'll tell you all about next week. But you can still chat live as this goes out, and you can ask questions below or on the YouTooSpain Facebook community. So, welcome to YouTooSpain. Cue the music and let's dance. Okay, very quickly before I introduce my expert guest / wife, you can thank us for the help you get today by buying me a coffee via the link in the video description below. You can also become a patron and receive extra videos and information that aren't available to the public. Those links, if you can't find them below, are also available on YouTooSpain.com, which is our terrific website packed with loads of information and articles and all of the links you need to help you move to Spain. So join the community. And you can get some other very helpful links there to where you can get discounts on lots of things that you need, especially something that all of you will need, which is getting the best currency exchange help from Smart Currency Exchange, one of our partners, so you can safeguard your money and pension in Spain. And if you use the special link in the video description below, you'll be helping YouTooSpain and it won't cost you a penny. So once again, we're going to be having some prizes to give away for the best questions and comments from you afterwards on social media. So without further ado, let's meet my guest for the day. It's Liz Scattergood. Hola!
Hola!
Good to have you in the building.
Don't slash your wife.
Yes, don't slash your wife. That's our best advice for today.
Yeah, and also we can't be in the same room, otherwise the universe implodes. So that's
yeah, that's right. Yeah, well, we thought we'd do it just so we can have both of us on the screen, just like the normal show. Otherwise, we'd be squeezing up into the window like this, and there's not room in this office. Anyway, so let's get on with it. First of all, just briefly explain our citizenship situation and our employment situation, because that's important to the order we had to sort out our residency.
Sure. Well, Skatz and I lived in Ireland for 8 years, and so after 5 years of living there and contributing as tax payers, you are eligible to apply for Irish citizenship, which obviously means that you're an EU citizen, which is what you did back in November, December 2019, I think it was. And unfortunately, we couldn't do it. We couldn't both do it because it's rather a large expenditure for us to be able to afford at the time. So you just did it on your own, and you got your EU citizenship back in April. So it's a year. Oh my God. April 2021, which was amazing considering the COVID issues and things like that, closures and, nobody in there working. So, of course, I'm still a British citizen, and we decided to move here, and we came here in October 2021 last year.
That's right. Yes. So, and we are, of course, self-employed as well, both individually self-employed, which will be relevant later on.
Autonomo, it's called, I believe.
Autonomo, yes. That's something you see misspelled a lot. Autonomo, as in like Derek Nimmo, which is, I find quite funny. So let's start with my part of the story as an EU citizen, because the rule, as a lot of you out there know, if one of a married couple is an EU citizen, neither of you need a residency visa to move to Spain. So Liz, for example, could get her residency on the back of mine, which means that first of all I had to apply for my NIE number and then residency, and then Liz had to wait until quite a long way down the line after I had registered as self-employed. We'll tell you exactly why that is in a minute when we got to that part of the process. So first thing I did, because we broke down in our car at the very north of Spain when we were on our way down, didn't we? Which was just a delightful experience. Yeah. And I had
4 days in Bilbao.
yeah, which which could have been lovely. We could have investigated, but we had
Oh,
our dog with us, so we couldn't go
yeah,
in anywhere.
yeah. And we
Yeah,
couldn't leave her in the hotel room because they said 20 minutes and that's it, no more. So,
yeah. So
yeah.
that's worth knowing. But anyway, so I had my NIE appointment supposedly for the Tuesday or Wednesday of that week, but we didn't make it. So one of the first things I had to do was give Chris from Upsticks, my regular weekly guest on this show, I had to give him power of attorney to make getting my NIE number easier and quicker, because once we got there, we knew we'd be busy looking for a place to live. We were looking for a house to rent. We were staying with friends in Granada province, but we were looking mostly near Malaga because we wanted to be nearer to the airport for when relatives came over. And also the place to get my NIE was going to be then in Malaga province, where Chris is based. So it just made sense to give him power of attorney. So just a little note about power of attorney, that has to be arranged through a notary's office. And the one we arranged is called a limited power of attorney, just for this one particular task, which means that we didn't have to go back afterwards and cancel it, which we probably would have had to do eventually if
Yeah.
we'd given full power of attorney. So it's worth knowing that there are two different ones of those, and you have to pay a fee. It was about 50 euros, something like that.
Yeah.
Yeah. So we started hunting to find a place to live, and we managed eventually to convince the owner of a property and the agent of our trustworthiness and financial status, which can take a bit, especially as we're self-employed,
Yeah.
because you need proof of income. You know, it's okay if you're retired and you've got proof of when your pension is coming in and all that kind of thing, but
And savings that you've got as well. So, you know, I mean, it's a totally different ball game with Autonomo.
there's some persuasion, and we used a bit of cash persuasion. We said,
Yeah.
let's pay some, perfectly legally. We'll pay some of it in cash up front, and we'll do it with receipts. And
Yeah, so to be a larger deposit really was all that was required. So, you know, I mean, that's fine.
so once we had the rental contract and it was all sorted out and agreed, we could then apply to be on the Padron, the empadronamiento at the town hall. We did that. That was a relatively easy process, wasn't it?
Yeah, I mean, it took a little bit longer to come through than people were suggesting it might, but that can be the case in smaller communities anyway. They just don't have the facility or the people on hand to be able to process it faster. So it's just...
Yeah, like we found out with your digital signature recently. There's one guy that deals with it, and he travels around to all of the local town halls and doing it at the same time each week, and he's only there for a few hours in Compito where we are. So so they said, we'll call you in a month when it's ready and you can come in and collect it. And the things we needed for that, actually, that's on a different video. If you want to have a look at the YouTooSpain's how to get your Padron video, which came out in the last month, I think that's a fairly recent one, then you'll get all the information you need. It's slightly different information that you might need at different town halls.
From province to province as well, I understand.
So the best thing to do actually is to go into your town hall and ask them exactly what you need. Take the form, take it away, fill it in. If you need advice to fill it in because it's in Spanish, then that saves time once you get actually back to the room and give them all of the documentation they need. Because we needed our landlord's DNI, which is like the equivalent of your NIE number if you're a Spanish citizen. And lots of other different things, including the notification that he'd paid tax on the property for the last year, to make sure it was all legal, and that tied everything in with the records that they have in the town hall. So we got that eventually. At that point, we actually opened a joint bank account as well. I think that was quite early on in the procedure.
I think we waited until we'd got the all clear that we were definitely going to get this house, but we did fairly early on.
And we decided on the bank that was actually in the town where we're living, because that meant we could go and see the bank manager. Best advice if you're opening a bank account, especially a non-residence account, which we had to do to begin with until we got our NIE numbers, then we're going to be opening a residence account shortly, because we're at that stage now where we both have our NIE numbers. We'll come back to that later, but it's a good idea to have a good relationship with the bank manager, because he said to us, even as non-residents, I'm going to make sure that there are no bank charges. So that was good. Whereas normally as a non-resident, you open an account and there'll be monthly bank charges, and you might have charges for transferring money across. So it's a good idea. Have a good relationship with your bank manager. Ask them, make sure you get proper notification of whether you've got bank charges. There is one charge that we did have, 2 individual charges, but it was an actual government charge for non-residents. And he said, we've got no control over that. That was a bit of a shock when it appeared on the bank statement, but I had to. So I asked the bank manager, and he said, yeah, sorry, that's a government one, but you will have no more charges from the bank.
That's why it's really important to be in the same town as the bank, because then you can actually get this good communication going, and sometimes you'll bump into them when you're out and about and things like that. I mean, we've bumped into the chap who opened our accounts for us, haven't we, a couple of times? And
we have, yeah.
It's just means you're sort of part of the community, and it really does help.
Yeah, that's true. He goes walking up the hill where I did the walking video, which you can find on the channel as well, with Luna the dog.
That one there. I'm trying to find that place just there.
Those mountains, that's the view from the viewpoint at 890 meters further up the hill. Lovely place to go, yeah. And okay, so where are we in the process? We opening the bank account. Yeah. So then the first thing I had to do then was get my NIE number, which, as I said, was done by Chris with the power of attorney. Now, as an EU citizen, you get your NIE number first. That's a separate appointment from when you get your residency appointment. So you have to get the NIE number first. That's different from the process that Liz had to go through, which we'll come to later. Then at that point, I was in touch with our Hestor Antonio, who's been on this show, and he arranged to get the national insurance number for tax. I think the first thing he did was get my digital signature, which was all arranged in order for him to be able to deal with different bureaucracy. That's something that I think I'll make a film all about, the digital signature. Yeah. So Antonio, the Hestor, lined everything up, registered me as Autonomo. Actually, he said, let's not register you until the new year, because that's going to save you money. Then you won't have to register anything in 2021. There was no work lined up for me at the time. I was just busy sort of setting up my my self-employment here. So that completely made sense. So that pushed everything back. So in the meantime, as the Hestor was lining up the Autonomo, we got our Padron certificate come through, and Chris applied for the residency appointment, and then I went for the residency appointment, and that was round about the middle of November when I went in with him. And you actually came along, didn't you, and brought the dogs along and waited in the cafe for us.
We only had the one dog then.
Oh, that's true, yes, we only had Luna.
Yeah.
Okay. And which is, it's a good point. Around about that point, we were registering the dogs and getting vaccinations, because we had this kind of gap between me going for my residency appointment and doing everything else, because of Antonio saying, let's not start everything until January the 1st, which actually left us with this situation where we'd arrived on the 10th of October, which meant that we'll have been there 3 months by January the 9th. And that's the deadline for you to start applying for your residency. That's the 3-month deadline. So we knew that. Yeah, and of course it's only the 5th of January by the time offices are opening up. So everything had to be done in those first few days of January.
There was a flurry of activity. Yeah,
so Chris was busy getting that done, and Antonio was busy getting everything set up. So in that sort of middle of November till the end of December, we were just chilling out, weren't we? And we also got the dogs registered. We actually bought a new dog.
Yeah, and we got Minnie at the end of February.
Oh yeah.
So yeah, but we had to go and register at the vets with Luna, and
We did.
yeah, so that was and make sure that she'd got her Spanish passport, because that's required here. You have to register all dogs here with a vet. Obviously, people don't, some of them, but you know, it's a good idea to get your dog registered. And then they check on vaccinations. And of course, if you've come here from any country in the EU or outside of the EU, even, you have to get a passport in order to come into another country. And
that's right. And you have to have the chip re-registered under Spain,
that's
or
right.
have a new chip.
Yeah. So with Luna, we just re-registered her, I think, didn't we?
We did, yes. I think
they
they changed the number on the chip.
Did they? Okay. But anyway, they scanned it in, and so she didn't have to have another chip, which is great.
There we go.
That's another thing you've got to have done, is make sure all your dogs are vaccinated up to the hilt and got their rabies vaccine and microchipped as well.
That's it. And 2 weeks ago we had Andy from Golden Paws Pet Transport on, and he talked about all of the things you need to have and the different vaccinations. So have a look back at that, everyone, if you want to know the full details of getting your pet over.
There's a lot to know about that, yeah.
So we had to wait until this point for Liz to apply for her residency. Like I said before, the reason is because of healthcare cover. For Liz to have healthcare cover, which she needs to apply for her residency, she could get that under my residency, but only if I was registered as Autonomo. So we had to wait for that point till I was fully registered. I had my residency and Autonomo set up, and I had my paperwork showing that I had a social security number. Therefore, we were both covered. That meant that she didn't have to get private healthcare insurance, and she was on the system for the sort of the National Health Service over here in Spain.
It's worth noting that if you are in our situation and you do not apply for Autonomo before the 90 days is up for the British citizen, then you will have to get some sort of health cover, I now understand. If you're not going for Autonomo straight away, then you may have issue with getting health services available, because your EHIC runs out, I think, after 90 days. So it's worth noting that as well.
And it can take an extended period getting all of your documentation sorted out. It was the middle of November by the time we moved into the property we'd been looking for. It was January, the middle of January, before we got registered. We went to the health centre then. We had to get our COVID vaccination boosters as well, so we had to kind of register there. And then it's now, we're in April. We're in May now. April has disappeared already, and we've only just got your TIE card through.
Yeah.
So
yeah, I mean, I did get that at the end of April, but actually, on saying that, a lot of people who are hearing our story have said how fast that is, that we've got it all set up and running. I mean, I'm still in the process of my, sort of various other little bits and bobs, like the digital signature and things like that are still, lingering on in the background. But essentially, we're here. I've got residency. I've got the TIE. You've got your NIE, and we're here. And it's been 6 months, and that is very quick.
It is,
and it's all thanks to Chris and Antonio and us following their examples and following their instructions.
It is, yeah. It's worth noting that I didn't get a TIE card because EU residents don't. It's just a residency card, which is a flimsy little thing.
Well, it's a proper robust card, yes.
Yeah, and you can use that as ID. You don't need to carry your passport around anymore, whereas I have to carry my passport really as my ID, and also show my residency card as well. There are various different residency cards depending on whether you got your residency through the withdrawal agreement as
Yeah.
a UK citizen living in Spain before Brexit, or whether you moved here afterwards. But
So you can't use the card, or the little card that you've got your NIE on, as identification.
it's not as official an ID card as your TIE is. I'd
Okay.
still
And I
need my
suppose
passport.
mine's got my photograph on, my signature. Yeah, I suppose. Yeah.
Yeah, mine's
And
just a piece of paper.
and my NIE. It's got my NIE on and everything. So I'm assuming, yeah. Okay.
Yeah, yeah. And just for anyone who doesn't know, the NIE is the number, the TIE is the card.
Card,
I
because
did
T
a
stands for tarjeta, which means card.
That's right. I've made a film all about that, what
Yeah.
TIE and NIE and all of those other abbreviations mean.
Yeah.
So Chris made the application. I've got here in my notes, and we had to wait for an appointment for Liz. In the meantime, with Social Security in place, registered at the health centre, Liz registered with her passport number on a temporary number, so we could both apply to get our booster vaccines. Came through at the end of January. Interesting to note, I don't know if this is important for anybody now, but the booster vaccination, getting your COVID certificate, that's been a bit of a hassle because, as I say, at this moment when this video goes out, we're on holiday and we couldn't actually go without Liz having her COVID vaccination certificate, and we've had awful trouble getting it, and we couldn't have got it even at the health centre, even after we just had the jab, because we registered kind of under a temporary number. And it's been all a panic, hasn't it? Last minute panic.
Yeah. So I've literally, as we're recording, I've been into the medical centre this morning with Chris on speakerphone, bless him. And he spoke to the receptionist. He did speak to the receptionist on the phone on his own without me yesterday. And she said, no, I can't do it. And I went in there today with all of my swathes of paperwork and with Chris on the phone, and she just started printing it out. So thankfully, that's why we're able to go away. So
yeah. So it was only in the last 2 hours that we knew, yes, we can go. We can finally go.
If I burst into tears, you'll know why. It's been very stressful.
Yes, it was one of those days, and so that's why we're very happy today. The only thing that's going to scupper our plans now is the PCR test. Yeah, if we get COVID, and we have to take a PCR test within the 48 hours before we go. And we stupidly booked the flight very early on a Monday morning. The PCR test place at the airport doesn't open until 7:30, and we've got to be on the plane at 7:45 flying away. So that means that we have to go in on the weekend, and if you try and get a PCR test at the health centres locally on the weekend, it costs you a fortune.
Well, there's only sort of private health centres that will do it now. You can't get one unless you're lined up to get one in the queue, for government in the Centro de Salud. But the private ones down on the coast, which is where they all are, charge a fortune to do a PCR at the weekend. So it's almost double the price to get one done at the weekend. So that's why we're going to the airport. The airport in Malaga is open from 7:30 until 7:30 in the morning till 7:30 at night, and they're doing PCRs all that time. You don't have to book; you can just walk up PCR test. So it's great. It's all part of the process, isn't it? And of course, it's stuff that you need to know. We wouldn't be going on holiday unless I've got my vaccine certificate, and getting that because I was a British citizen was more difficult than if I was an EU citizen. So it's all part of it, I think.
So it's interesting to note that where are we now? Early in May, and it's taken since the 10th of October to get to this stage, and the process isn't quite complete yet. There's still documentation going through, because Antonio now has the sort of authorization to do it with your digital signature. So there's still stuff that's happening in the background, still bureaucracy, and there probably will be forever, because that's what bureaucracy is all about.
And of course Spain, bless them, they love their bureaucracy here, and everything has to be filled out in triplicate and signed and notarized and official stamp on it and things like that. So yes, it's quite a process, isn't it? All of these things, but we knew that in advance before we came, so it shouldn't really be any surprise that it's taking us a while. It's just that it's hindered us going on holidays and doing other things, and Autonomo application and things like that. It's just taken us a little bit longer.
It has. No, we've made some friends in the process, though. It's been wonderful to. Obviously, there are places where, because our Spanish isn't really good enough to deal with technical bureaucracy, that and to ask exactly the right questions, we've had to have people come along with us, and just to make sure that all of the documentation is exactly right. All of these documents in Spanish. Certain boxes that you have to tick, it's difficult to know exactly what they need, so we've had help from
big thanks to Morris Jonkers as well, because he's been outstanding for us. He's been very helpful getting us sorted, and especially in things like the medical side of things. He's been great.
He has, and at the last minute we chucked him out for Chris to come in and do it.
I know,
so,
but I mean,
nothing personal, but Chris was an expert on this particular
and
thing.
And also Morris is super busy as well, so but this was something that we really needed to do like now, and so it was important.
Yeah, it needed something with Chris's firepower. We needed to bring in the big guns.
I know, that man, all he does all day, every day, is talk to Spanish officials. So he knows what to say to get the work done.
Absolutely. So get yourself a Chris. That's the advice.
Yes. Absolutely.
So, well, that's basically the process that we went through. If anybody has any questions about that particular part of the process, or any variations on that process, because there are variations. I did make a live stream video with Chris, which I'll put a link to in the video description below. It was all about different scenarios. For example, if just one of the couple was working, if the EU person was working or the non-EU person was working, there's a different order to what you need to do things in. And there's a different order if there's if it's a working visa or a self-employed visa. There are variations. So you could look at that video, or just ask us questions in the comments rather below.
And we know quite a few people who have had different scenarios as well. The people we stayed with initially when we came to Spain have got a different scenario as well. Their situation has just changed again. One is EU, one is British citizen, and one is working, the other one isn't. So it's an interesting how all the different combinations work. But it works. It works. So and there was all this sort of media hype that now the English wouldn't be able to move to Spain or anywhere in Europe, and after post Brexit, and I said the B word, sorry. But it's like it can be done. It can be done, and if you know the right people, and and you do your due diligence, as they say, then you can get where you want to be. We're very grateful for all the people that we know and have met over this period of time.
And if you're not EU citizens and you're coming in on a visa, then there are ways of doing it. There are no loopholes, but if you plan,
really
if you obviously need the finances, and that's the same for any non-EU citizens. It's just the way it is.
Whether you're coming from the States, or whether you're coming from the UK, or whether you're coming from Japan, this is exactly the same for everybody, and that's something that everybody should know. It's not just that the British have been singled out now that we've left the EU. It's exactly the same as if you're coming from Canada or from Japan, or it doesn't make any difference. It's just that's the way it is now, unfortunately.
Yes, it's not revenge
it's
at
possible.
all.
Possible.
It is.
Right.
So normally at this point we would have prizes given out for people who asked questions on the live chat, but of course we're not here. We're not live. Well,
sorry.
Yep.
We're sunning it up in Morocco somewhere.
Yes. Although actually by the time this goes out live, we'll be back home. So
okay.
Actually, we might be able to sit on the live chat and talk to people and give out a prize there. Of
course, yes. We might be a bit bleary-eyed because we'll have got in at like the wee small hours of Saturday morning. So be gentle with us. Be gentle with us.
Yeah. So we might be talking to you right now, right at this very moment, and giving you a prize. And I will say, send us your address don't put it in the live chat if we've given you a prize, because that disappears after I press this button and end the recording. So yeah, so go on to the YouTooSpain community Facebook group, join that, or become a subscriber on this channel. Press the subscribe button and like this video. So that's all of the questions that I have here answered, and I'd like to say thank you to my darling wife here for coming on the show and filling in this wonderful gap when we've been away, so I can record it in advance. So thank you for that. Next week, I'm back with Chris from Upsticks. Mention the name again. Continuing our series called "What Does It All Cost to Move to Spain?" and looking at looking at more details of part of the moving process. I'll announce on Facebook and to subscribers in advance of that which part of it we'll be covering, because I've not decided this at the point of recording this, but it will be something that you all need to think about and ask questions about. So join us next week at the regular time of 9 o'clock if you're in the UK or Ireland, 10 o'clock if you're in Spain, or 4 o'clock in the morning if you're in New York, you lucky things. Don't forget to check out, I've got this fly again, I'm just going to wave him about. Just fly, leave the show. I've got one of those new wands that I bought, a USB wand for swatting flies. So
the dogs are scared to death of it, by the way.
Yeah, it's a mad thing. It goes fires 4,000 volts through them. I don't know what it's going to be like outside once all the mosquitoes get. I'll just be running around the garden.
That's all you'll be doing all day, every day.
It'll be like the with this whip sound that happens all the time, scaring the dogs. Anyway, oh yeah, while Liz is on, don't forget to check out, I say this every week, don't forget to check out YouTube Yoga, the YouTube channel that's Liz's. You can have free yoga and meditation classes, can't you?
Yeah. Yes, absolutely. And U2 Aromatherapy has got sort of like information on what I do as an aromatherapist and massage therapies and things like that too. So.
Excellent. Well worth doing. And of course, we have the hoodies and t-shirts and other goodies from the YouTooSpain merchandise page. The link is below. Don't forget to buy me a coffee or become a patron to support YouTooSpain, and also get your currency exchange done through Smart. Do that through this particular link that's down below.
Yeah, they're really good.
Yeah, top company. So that's all for this week. Thank you so much for tuning in. Don't forget to subscribe and click on the bell, ting, if you haven't already. I used to have a little ting logo up there. I'll get that back.
Well, look at that.
Yeah. So peace and love, and we'll see you on the next show. Let's do this little musical thing. Bye bye for now. Bye bye.